Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Delaware County Commissioners meeting. It is Monday, October 20th, 2014. The time is now 9:02. If you'd please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Denise, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Bledsoe?
Here.
Ms. Friggin?
Here.
And Mr. King?
Here.
Ms. Russ?
Present.
And Ms. Shawn Neal?
Present.
No public hearings. We need approval for the October 6th meeting.
So moved.
Second that.
Have a motion and a second for approval. Denise, can you call the roll, please?
Ms. Friggin?
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe?
Yes.
And Mr. King?
Yes. Next, we have presentation to commissioners, budget estimates, grants. Pat?
Good.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Is it right here okay?
Yes.
Good morning. I'm Pat Hart with the Delaware County Prevention Council. I wanted to come to you today and explain our budget. We are able to fund this year a total of 14 grants, and this is grants addressing prevention, treatment, or law enforcement of substance abuse in our community. And I hope you got a copy of that. And also tomorrow is our Red Ribbon Week celebration at the Horizon Center, and we're standing at right at 600 people. So we're thrilled about that. We have an excellent program. We have 43 teenagers on our Pride team this year, and those teenagers represent the 8 different school corporations in our community. So they've been working very hard every weekend to put together a presentation. So I think everybody present will be thrilled. After the presentation at the breakfast, they will be going out and blitzing elementary schools mainly. And we'll be presenting to about 4,500 elementary students next week. And our presentation includes dance, skits, just, speaking as to why they're drug-free. These are all top-notch students who are involved in so many things, but yet they share the message that you can be successful, happy, be involved in things, and still be drug-free. So they're all an awesome bunch. If anyone does not have tickets, it's here today. I happen to have a couple in my wallet. So anyway, we're proud of the breakfast and what it's involved into. And also this year we do have the Indiana Attorney General, Greg Zoller, who will be at the breakfast. And we're speaking mainly, there's a set of parents from Carmel, Indiana, who lost their son, 18-year-old son, to an alcohol overdose at a party. So Indiana passed what's called the Indiana Lifeline Law, and we will be explaining that further. What we want to do is get the message out to kids that if you're in the situation, someone needs help, they've drank too much, and you realize there's a problem, make the call and save a life. So many times kids are afraid that they're going to get in trouble, they're going to get prosecuted, and this and that. So this is a form of encouraging the kids to make the call to save that friend's life. So, any questions?
But is it 7 o'clock or 7:30?
7:30.
7:30.
7:30 to 9:30, and we try to get you out a little bit early, but we got a lot on the program.
It's always such a wonderful program. We appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The motion on this passes.
That's council, correct? Okay, next we have contracts, agreements for approval, Spyglass Snapshot Audit Agreement. Judy?
If you remember, a few years back, and I can't tell you what year, we entered into an agreement with Spyglass and realized savings from what they did. And this is just a follow-up to that in order to see if any of the savings that they were able to find for us have appeared back on our bills, because oftentimes the communications companies find a way to get things back on your bills. So it's just kind of a look-see. As you can see, if they don't find anything, we don't pay anything. It's just based upon what they do find. And my office is the one that works with them oftentimes, as well as Patty, in order to give them the information that they need in order to review it.
So how much did they save you? Did they?
Oh, you would ask that, and I didn't come
Well,
prepared.
my question is,
I was gonna say 30-some thousand, at least, I believe.
so whoever's paying the bill, did they come in and teach you how to make sure it doesn't go back on, or?
No, that was not a teaching thing, because you gotta understand the terminology of the companies. And they oftentimes put things in there and they hide them very well, so.
Just look at your own Verizon Wireless.
Yeah, and that's my next question.
Yeah.
They look at all the plans,
Yeah,
cell phones and everything.
they look at everything.
And that's not duplication of what Steve does for us.
No, it's not.
No, but we did call Stephen, and he did help them on a couple occasions.
Okay, good, okay. So,
We all work together on it.
Yeah.
appreciate you working on it.
I'll move for approval of the Spyglass Snapshot audit agreement as presented.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and second. Do we have any further discussion? Denise, call the roll, please.
Mr. Bledsoe?
Yes.
Ms. Riggin?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes. Next, we have energy savings agreement with Amorisco, correct, Steve?
We are preparing to close this financing tomorrow. I have with me a few closing documents that we can review after the meeting, but this is for your final approval of the Amorisco agreement. We did make a few minor changes in the agreement. Those have all been cleared with bond counsel, and we have the final agreement ready for your signature later.
So are we being reimbursed for the bond counsel?
That comes out of the financing, yes.
It comes out of.
Yes, yes.
Thank
Well, I'll move, I think we approved this last.
You really did approve it last time.
This is the final, this is
Yes.
my opinion.
Yes.
Seen an email form. I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the energy savings agreement as presented.
you. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Denise, call the roll, please.
Ms. Riggin?
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe?
Yes.
And Mr. King?
Yes. We have no more contracts or agreements. We'll move on to appointments. Fair board appointments.
Well, as the ex officio board member of the commissioners for the fairgrounds that we have out there, I'd like to put in nomination of Michelle O'Malley as the one opening. We have two openings, but I'd like to fill the one opening with Michelle.
Jane, is there two openings?
There is.
Do you have a recommendation on the other? I mean, I know we've tried to use community volunteers. Is there somebody
And
that?
that is true. Bob Brown has asked to be appointed. He has been a community volunteer for the last couple of years. His background is in sales. He was a good one to stand out in the pouring rain and sell tickets a couple times last year. He is also a good contact with us for Hoosier Park, since we're going to be going into the horse racing season. I would like to see him on the board. Sherry, can you give me any background on?
Yes. And I apologize for not getting with you.
I mean, we really need, this is a working board. I mean, this is not somebody it's not a board you're gonna come to on one Tuesday night and sit through a board meeting. During the fair, many of our people take their vacation and they work, and Patty Lackey has also indicated she would like to be on the board. So those are the people that we would like to have, the ones that have said, I have a talent, I would like to do this, I have an interest in this facility. That's our only position. We
I
have
appreciate that, Jane.
we have had board members that have come on and did not have a clue of what the Fair Board did. And needless to say, they didn't last very long. But you put on your work clothes and you work the gates and you work the radio and you work the fair, the midway, you know, you do everything in the office. I mean, so we really need people who say, this is really what I want to do and I'm going to be dedicating a lot of my time to this.
How many community volunteers do we have currently? I mean, do you have
I think we have maybe 10 or 12, and most of our community volunteers right now are the ones that have been on the board and for some reason or another has found they don't have the time to spend, and so they want to be community volunteers where they can still be involved, but a voting right is all they don't have. We listen to them, you know, they're invited to meetings. Most of them help during the fair. The only thing that they don't have is a vote. And we have 6 members coming up at the end of the year that will need to be reappointed.
Well, I always try to give with you, Jane, of, you know, utilizing community volunteers, but out of respect for Share Ratings Office, I'll second her appointment for this one position.
Look at it later.
I'm gonna make a motion here in a minute for the other appointment, but I'll do
Are
this
you
in a
talking
second.
about Michelle, look at it?
Okay.
Really, I get her resume.
Yeah, she got, she's,
The only thing that, I mean, honestly, that would concern me is when you look at the experience, she gets moved around quite a bit.
Well, she's been here 4 years and ready to get active in the
Yeah.
community, and I didn't print all 10 pages of it
Yeah,
out.
but I'm good with it. Do you have any other discussion on that one? Denise, you call the roll.
Mr. Bledsoe?
Yes.
Ms. Riggin?
Yes.
And Mr. King?
Yes.
And I'll make a nomination for position number 2, of community volunteer Bob Brown.
I'll second it. Have any discussion on Bob Brown?
He's a good man, but I'm looking for an accountant.
Michelle's my accountant.
Actually, we pay an accountant.
Well, we do pay an accountant. And here's the problem. We have wonderful volunteers out there, but we need to get some policy written down for the board. And I was very disappointed when we received a $31,000 electrical bill. And we were glad to pay it, and we found some money, and I appreciate that. But I've always been taught that you need a fair balance of people on your boards. You need everybody represented at the table, and I don't see that out the Fair Board. But they're good people, don't get me wrong. They work hard, they work hard those 2 weeks, but it's the other 50 weeks that I worry about on paying the bills. So that's all I'm saying. Question?
Okay. Denise, call the roll, please.
Ms. Riggin?
No.
Mr. Bledsoe?
Yes.
And Mr. King?
Yes.
Thank you.
Jane, thanks, and like I say, it is appreciated what they do out there with
Thank you.
fall, spring, and
They're
summer
all
events.
volunteers,
I mean, it
only
is-
have 2 paid staff. And they
Yeah,
run that
it's
40
it's
acres.
remarkable, I mean, what goes on. I mean, it's the work of those people that keep this thing as even as we can.
Yeah.
For not only the community, but for everything they've got.
It has to be a labor of love or you wouldn't do it.
It's a lot of work.
Absolutely.
Jane's father, he spent many years on that fair board too, working the pig barn.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Jane. We have no table of business. We'll move on to ordinances for second reading. We have ordinance 2014-023, an ordinance adopting proposed Delaware County Exposition Center rental fees.
Okay, this is the second reading, but this is just what we thought we had done years ago, but did not, and this is cleaning it up in a public meeting with the renting of any building, the chairs, any kind of facility that you would need, so it establishes the rates. So I'll move for approval of ordinance number 2014-023.
Second that.
Motion is second. Do we have any further discussion? Denise, call the roll, please.
Mr. Bledsoe?
Yes.
Ms. Riggin?
Yes.
And Mr. King?
Yes. Have no ordinances for first reading. We have no resolutions for today. We'll move on to department heads and elected officials.
Morning, Marta.
Morning. Marta Moody, the Executive Director for the Plan Commission and also the MPO Director for Muncie and Delaware County. And last week, I was at the annual MPO conference, which stands for Metropolitan Planning Organizations. And these are organizations that do federal transportation planning throughout the state of Indiana. There are 14 of us, and we have an annual conference that is attended by all of those MPO agencies, as well as NDOT, Federal Highway, and Federal Transit Administration. And at that conference, we also give out 4 awards. And one of those awards is for an outstanding transportation project for special design and construction. And I had submitted the Morrison Road Corridor project for consideration, and we won. So I went, and at the presentation, Angela DeWeese was there from Chaw Companies, and I know the others weren't able to be there, but let's see, Lawrence Brown, who is the MPO director for Columbus, that's where we were, I told him he could pretend to be Angie, and that I pretended to be the commissioners, and I was explaining, picture me at 6 foot tall or whatever. So anyway, it was, they thought that it sounded like a very, very good project. And most of the people there are familiar, you know, with Muncie, and several of them, including the people from Federal Highway, were familiar with the project, obviously. And I submitted both phases, the roundabout as well as the corridor project. And yep. So anyway, there you go.
Thank you, Marta.
Thanks, Marta, for yeah.
I'm sure you remember the hearings with the roundabout years ago.
Oh yes, oh yes.
We got out of their lives, so to speak.
I know. And in the application that I wrote up, you know, I explained in there and talked about how this had been a project that had been around for a long time, and that the Board of Commissioners were to be commended for sticking with the project, and that there were a lot of people talking about, you know, should we do this, should we do that, and that the commissioners, particularly Larry at the time, because he was sort of the carryover guy, were
when the decision about the roundabout was there, that was my first major.
Yeah, and how important it is to follow the professional plans and transportation models that are prepared that set forth the need for these projects, and how important it is to continue and carry through with them. I also talked about how as the project was moving along, everything seemed to get more and more expensive, including the utility relocates, which were very expensive. And that one of the things they looked at to cut the costs back were sidewalks, but everyone involved, including the commissioners, Angie, my office, everybody agreed that there needed to remain pedestrian facilities there. So that's where we came up with the walkway on the east side of the road. And I will tell you, I don't know about you, but I've been at places, at meetings or whatever, where somebody's come up to me. John Disher came up to me not too long ago saying that he had already been using it and he thought it was the best thing since sliced bread. So anyway, it's a great project.
And
So.
I say these projects have sidewalks, and you're being intrusive trying to gather property, and you know the homeowners. I know that we had some homeowners that wasn't happy, but when you look at the grand scope, how the improvements to that area, and I do believe the property values in that area won't hopefully not be as affected as once
Right.
beginning of this project.
Right.
So it is a good
Right.
project.
The other thing I was going to say was some people talk about when you do have a pedestrian component like that, talk about how, well, you know, there's sidewalks like going nowhere. But my answer to that is that you have to start building a network, and you have to start somewhere. And this is a wonderful start. The Delaware County Redevelopment Commission currently has another project in the works to do sidewalks in the Morrison, Tiff, Lindenbrook area. There's a sidewalk project that's a federal aid project going on for the city of Muncie along Purdue and Tillotson, and all of these will connect together. So, you know, it's a great start.
Thank you for your hard work.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Do we have anybody else?
I was happy, Ken.
Next.
I've got a nice email from Chris that he's still out there paving roads and if the weather holds up.
Yeah, we're paving today. If we had 3 more weeks, we'll be done.
Good.
Appreciate it.
On the agreement, I believe we discussed this
Yeah.
last one with IU Health. I believe it's changed
Yeah, the
from the
agreement,
24 to 40.
the IU Health agreement that we provided last year with, or last week, it seems like a year. 2 weeks ago, but there was a slight miscalculation on the figures, so we are just going to clean up the administrative part. So the difference was it went from $146,000 $118,821. There was just some the hours were incorrect, so I'll make a motion that we adopt these changes that were found, I think, by Nancy, and appreciate that. So I'll move for approval of the IU Business Solutions Agreement as presented with the $118,821 figure.
I'll second that. Yeah.
So we just found that out, I mean, so we had that on the agenda. Clean it up.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Denise, can you call the roll, please?
Yes. Ms. Reagan?
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe?
Yes.
And Mr. King?
Yes. Next, everybody received their monthly report from Weights and Measures. We'll move on to payment of claims in the amount of $1,698,722.27.
Second that. Or so moved.
I'll say.
Sorry.
For third.
That's fine. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Yeah. Denise, call the roll.
Mr. Bledsoe?
Yes.
Ms. Reagan?
Yes.
And Mr. King?
Yes. Next, we'll move on down to questions, comments from the public, or anybody like to get up and speak? Going once, going twice?
I'll move for a motion to reset.
Second.
A motion to recess with a second. Denise, call the roll, please.
Ms. Reagan?
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Anybody vote no?
Yeah.
Recess.